Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to the SHC Division of Business podcast. This is your host, Ethan Sisk, and today we'll be featuring Daya Naef. In today's episode, we'll be covering what drove Ms. Naef to start a company designed to coach and advise other companies, positive techniques to advance leadership, and the intriguing contrast between the realms of the right and left brain. Good morning, Ms. Daya.
Hi, Ethan. Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining me.
You're very welcome. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. Can you give me a little background on you and a little snippet for the audience?
Absolutely. So I'm a Spring Hill grad. I was in the first ever Master of Liberal Arts graduating class. That was in 1997. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Stephanie Kapod invited me to come today to speak to her students at the business school, and I was absolutely happy to do that.
I was able to persuade you for an interview too, so I'm very fortunate for that.
Yeah, that's great.
You are a business coach.
Yes.
Is that how you describe your role?
Yes, that's a good shorthand description. So I go into companies and I work with them. Their companies either starting, growing, pivoting, or exiting their business. So I work primarily with the business owners. I do specialize in working with law firms, being a retired construction lawyer, and running a firm, running a solo practice beforehand.
How long were you a lawyer?
Between 16 and 18 years, depending upon when you count the transition.
Yeah. So what made you want to coach businesses and help? Is it just your in-depth knowledge, or was it you felt there was a need?
Yeah, that's a great question. Often in my law practice, there would be some contractual disputes, people with contractors who use subcontractors, or other disputes within the business, sometimes partners within the business having disagreements, not always a breakup type disagreement, but maybe a where do we take the business from here? And often once you're in the legal system, your options are limited. So you're to the point where things are being divided, or the ship has gone in a direction that the company did not want to go. So I was always, after the fact, talking to the parties involved, the ones I could legally talk to, of course, on, hey, why did this go wrong? How did this go in a direction you did not want it to go? And how can you remedy that in the future? And often that would be different partnerships or different people in the business, better hiring techniques, becoming clear on your vision and where you wanted to go instead of just scrambling all the time, keeping the business going. And so that put in my mindset to move into more of a proactive role later on.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. What are some scenarios when a business would request your help or seek your guidance?
Yeah, absolutely. I get people who are anywhere from the brand new startup idea, like for instance, if I was working with an attorney who was in a larger law firm, and they're like, well, I want to go on my own, or I want to join a small partnership. We'd start brainstorming on that as early as possible. The idea when someone's leaving a company or leaving a firm, to leave it in a good space, to leave it to where you'd become referral partners. Definitely. Or collaborative partners versus actually being in competition with one another.
So, I feel like in your profession, you have to do a lot of the intricacy work itself and helping businesses, but you also have to do the whole business running, so marketing and brand. Is it tough being on all fronts, or is it enjoyable to you to have such a diverse workplace? Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ethan, and definitely I have a lot of trusted partners in my business, a lot of people that I can refer to. So if you and I were working together and it was like Ethan's company,
okay,
I would.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Ethan LLC. You and I would be working together. We would be doing a lot of visioning work. We'd be sitting there shoulder to shoulder. I'd be there. You'd be talking through a lot of your ideas with me, and things like marketing, like you mentioned. You're like, okay, I need to brand my company, but this is what it looks like to me. and I would be like giving you feedback. So, well, Ethan, I'm hearing that, and if I were your customer hearing that, this is what I hear. And a lot of times you'd be like, well, it's not quite it. And we would be able to work through that before you went out and put in a lot of money on marketing, and then you'd be attracting the wrong type of
Yeah,
customer for
gotcha.
your business.
Is it ever hard to walk away from a business or startup after you've put time and seen the progression of it?
I know when it's time.
Okay.
And it is mutually agreeable. And I come back usually and consult again about every quarter or every 6 months or so, just to see how they're doing, seeing if there's any changes. Sometimes there's growth at different intervals. And that's a great time for me to go revisit a company and work for a few months.
Are you ever paid in steak, or is it just percentage based, or how does your
I haven't yet. I haven't
No?
yet. I do know some people who do that. They do a portion of a fee up front, and then do get points in the company, especially if it's a startup. So I haven't yet, but not opposed to it.
And your actual business is called the Success Partner?
The success partner.
Okay, cool. How big's the market? Like, do you have a lot of competitors that are also trying to develop businesses? And
That's an interesting question. It depends. I work nationwide, and so the market is very different in different areas. In like DC, started the company in Washington, D.C., and
that was when you were a lawyer at the time?
yes,
Okay.
I was transitioning at
So
the
you kind
time.
of felt the need for this.
Yes,
Nice.
yes, I was transitioning at the time, and I actually went to coaching school in Washington, D.C. at a pretty strenuous program, and I interned with them for 2 years as well in D.C.
Which program was that?
It's called accomplishment coaching. Yeah,
Nice.
it's a great program. It's been around, I think, 20 years, and DC is one of their core chapters for the program, and because it's very strong on leadership and development, and DC is leadership capital of the country.
Exactly.
So also very strong in professional and personal development courses in that area. So
Do most people that go through the course, do they use it for themselves in their own business, or do they use it for the purpose of helping others like you are?
Yes, mostly helping others, but we did have some people in leadership positions. There were a couple of college deans that went through the program. Some people were practicing psychologists, and then they wanted to add some tools to their toolbox in that arena.
How do you feel that, I guess, expanding your leadership expertise, how has that helped you in business and also life? Are those two kind of compatible?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we're one person in our life, so we are holistic. And people like to separate personal and professional, and definitely having healthy boundaries is great and paramount to success. However, you're not a separate being. So you have to incorporate all of that. So leading into your values, leading into things that are important to you in your life, or like your life's mission, as well as your business mission, or even if you're an employee. If you're working for someone else, then how do you want to show up in that environment as an employee?
So it's kind of, you're the root cause of what you put out. So you kind of got to align your values and goals, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
What would you recommend for students that are trying to grow their leadership and become a better, I guess, someone to look at for inspiration?
Oh, okay. Yeah, leadership as
Yeah.
a student, and then as you go out into, what year are you? I forgot to ask.
I'm a junior.
You're a junior.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
So I'm trying to expand my leadership and those traits.
Yeah.
So what advice would you recommend to a student like me?
Yeah, absolutely. Like get involved. Get involved. The best training is always hands-on training.
Yes.
So
I feel like that's the best way to learn for me too, is just hard knocks and take what I can get and learn from by example, definitely.
Yes, no matter what your role, you can do some sort of leadership activity. So even if you're brand new on the job and you're a independent contributor, or you're just working on the team and you're brand new, just lean into like where you can find some opportunities for leadership.
What's your favorite industry of business to help with and serve as a model for?
So industry types
Yes.
of industry. Well, I work a lot in legal, of course, and I grew up in construction. So my family had a construction company, actually here in Daphne, Alabama.
Nice. That's where you're from. Yeah.
Yes, grew up in Daphne, and they literally ran the construction company right out of our house. So I grew up with an very entrepreneurial family.
Nice.
So
Would you contribute that to your, I guess, startup success and how you help others start up?
yes, absolutely. I feel I have sort of the vision and the risk tolerance for it, knowing that entrepreneurialism
Mm-hmm.
it's wonderful, and really appreciate people going into it. But there is some resiliency
Yeah.
involved. There's a lot of ups and downs in the startup phase for any business. Some are more challenging than others, but there's always going to be some bumps in the road the first couple of years.
Why do you feel that kind of risk tolerance is so important?
Just to continue to stay your course and continue to know what's expected and what's up ahead. And you learn from others. The best
Definitely.
school, of course, is making your own mistakes, but that's painful and it takes a long time. So when you start to get mentors or join a business roundtable or another organization or invest in coaching or consulting for your business, what you're doing is you're skipping ahead. You're getting the experience from that person, the training of that person, and also the feedback from all the companies that they've worked for.
Yeah.
We stay anonymous, of course, when I'm sharing a story or case study, but that lesson has been learned.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's almost like being able to see around the corner.
There's a quote I heard. It's like a dumb person doesn't learn from their own mistakes. A smart person learns from their mistakes, and a super smart person learns from others' mistakes.
Excellent. Yep, excellent. That's what we're aiming to do.
Mm-hmm. Where do you find, like, what's your, obviously you learn from others' mistakes and the business stuff, but are there any books or outside sources that you like to gain insight and inspiration from?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I'm an avid reader. My programs, if you could call them that, everything I do is completely custom. So it's Ethan's company. It's going to be Ethan's vision for the company and how we lay it out. But there are some great hallmarks of entrepreneurship. One is called The Four Disciplines of Execution, and I'm blanking on the author's name. I'm sorry. It's a very, very good book for business startups. Very popular right now is the EOS system, the Entrepreneur's Operating System, and there's several books in that series. I think the most notable is Traction. I think there's 3 books actually. So it's a good startup. There's also a book called Profit First, around bookkeeping and how to actually show that you are making a profit. A lot of times in business or in life, we see a lot of money coming in. We go after the customers very strong. We get a lot of orders. We fulfill a lot of services, but we're not really watching the back end as much. And so that's one of the lessons there to really key in on.
That's great. I'll put some of those in my recommended reading.
Absolutely.
There's for me, the books I've kind of gone to are some self-help, but also some investing, and that's kind of my what I'm trying to develop my forte in is investing. So I'm reading one right now, and it also shows like some kind of like the emotional side of things, which I can feel like can relate to the business development and stuff. And just this morning, I read that like the only thing that is predictable is that the future is unpredictable. So, it's tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. Investing is a long game. You can predict some of the future from the past. But I think if anything, the pandemic taught us was that we could not foretell the future.
Yeah. On your education, so you got a MLA from Spring Hill, Masters of Liberal Arts.
Yes.
And you were the first you were in the first class.
I was in
to
the
get
first
that.
class. Yes, we started in the spring of '95, and the first graduating class was May of '97, and I was in that class.
Did participating in that program draw you to Spring Hill because
Yes.
it was a newly offered deal? And at the time, was it a common program at other schools?
No, I think it was sort of on the cutting edge.
Wow.
Actually, yes, it drew it to me. I love a good rounded education, and it was really interesting to expand my mind and my way of thought before I went to law school.
So your education some stems from the entrepreneurial at home, and then the MLA. How much, like, do you use both of those equally, or which one would you say you use more or less?
Oh, that's a great question. I use, if you use the right brain, left brain analogy, I use both a lot. So I'm also an artist. So I'm a creative by nature, by birth.
Do you feel it grows your right brain's the art side?
Yes.
Right. Do you feel that you grow your right brain by actively participating in art and drawing, and do you feel like it's a growth thing or like it's a set?
Oh, I think everything is a growth thing. I do
Okay.
think everything is a growth thing. I feel like I was born an artist, and I guess through nurture, through my environment growing up in business, and then also going to law school. Law school is mostly what I would consider a left brain activity, very logical and
I would too.
analytical.
Yeah.
So I think both.
'Cause I'd say I inherently have a more left brain, but I've been working on developing the right brain by playing piano, and it's tough, but I'm still working on mastering which key's which. But I feel like it's also helping me on my left brain too. Just kind of the versatility, and it kind of cross pollinates success in all your different aspects. So you're from Daphne. Now where do you currently live?
I'm here a lot.
Mobile.
Yes, I still have a house in New Orleans, so that's
Okay.
my official residence. But I come home pretty much every weekend to see my folks.
Which Mardi Gras did you attend?
I did not go to Mardi Gras.
Okay. Okay.
I did come to the Spring Hill alumni party
Cool.
at Bo Hayden's and slipped out right before the parade.
I went to one with a few professors, which was it was a treat. I think it's one of also the kind of specialties of Spring Hill is how close to students and professor relationship is. Like this morning, we got coffee with Dr. Gapud, and at a big school, I mean, that's the chances of that.
Oh,
almost
Spring
too.
Hill is amazing.
ma'am.
The student to professor ratio is on point. In fact, there were only 6 students in the MLA program, and oftentimes we would have 3 professors. So
That's phenomenal.
yes,
Wow.
it was a phenomenal experience.
Let's say a little bit more on the business coaching side of things. Let's say I have an idea for a business, but don't have really the capital, but I have like the idea. Will you take that on, or do I have to come to you with capital and ready to move?
Yeah, it depends on where you're at with it, and a lot of times, just having a startup idea, like we can like work on like fleshing it out to see if there's a need to do advanced sales or a need to raise capital. Certain types of industries are lended more toward like the venture capital arena, and others if it's something that you're going to productize, looking for advanced sales, starting with a seed audience. It really depends. I gotta give you the lawyer answer on that one. It
Yes, ma'am.
depends.
Do you think that like there's potential for investors to come to you and say, okay, I've got this sum of money that I want to invest, and then from all the different businesses you've worked with, do you think you could lead them in the right direction?
Yes, I do run into a lot. I'm an avid networker as well, so I do run into people who have money as well as people who need money, and it's just putting them together in the right scenario.
What are some tips and tricks for networking?
Oh gosh, staying with it, staying consistent. It is a farming experience, not a hunting experience, or maybe a little bit of both. You can definitely target people that you feel would be instrumental in your growth, especially a young entrepreneur like yourself. Finding people who are 5 years down the road and successful. And
Where you kind of like the same path you want to take.
yeah,
Gotcha.
see what they're doing. See if you can offer them something in turn for some mentorship. Doesn't have to be an official capital M mentorship, but definitely finding people and people are willing to help. I get pushback sometimes saying, "Oh, they're too busy," or "No, they don't want to talk to me." And then I hear some great stories of this is a published so and so who had conference headliner, and lo and behold, I emailed him and we met for coffee.
Wow.
So you'd be surprised.
Have you had a mentor?
Off and on, yes, off and on through my development. I've had different mentors. What was lacking, I think, coming out of law school as a woman early on, a lack of female attorney mentorship at the time. This is I'm going to date myself, but coming out of school in the early 2000s, the law schools had done a great job of getting women in law school.
Yeah.
The problem was there wasn't really a lot of leadership and guidance once you got out of law school and into the legal field.
Which law school did you go to?
Loyola, New Orleans.
Okay, so that's what kind of led you to stay in New Orleans?
Yes.
Awesome.
And I ended up there because of coming to Spring Hill. So it's like, oh yeah, I definitely want to stay with a Jesuit education.
Yeah. What would you say is the toughest part in, I guess, like switching avenues? So you started in law and now, entrepreneurial business growth. Because I feel like for me and some of my peers, it's like, it's a tough decision to decide, which path I want to do now. And then it's like, well, I have to choose the right one because then I'll waste time if I switch, So what was your thought process and going from one to the other? And was it a huge leap?
That's a good question. That's sort of a blessing and a curse of our system. Is so in the U.S. people can do what they want. In other countries, you're tested more for aptitude, or you go into the family business and it's just a given. And here we're able to retrain, cross-train, change, go back to school, a lot of flexibility. And with that amount of choices, there can be some stress.
Yeah.
And I talk to people who are I feel on the younger-ish side now that I'm on the other side of younger-ish.
You're still young. What are you talking about?
And they want to make very crucial decisions, and there's still a lot of time.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of time to find out. So I'd suggest in the earlier years to prototype things, to go and shadow people in other professions. If you're expecting to shift a profession earlier rather than later, get as much information as you can about it.
Are you happy with the profession you're in now, or do you think you'll hop to another one?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm hoping that this is going to be this, or an iteration of this will be the last or the one to hone on for the next. Oh gosh, I don't know. However many years I'm gonna stay full time. I don't ever see myself fully retiring. I think that I'll have some sort of give back for the rest of my life. It just may move into more of a training capacity, or more
Giving back to others. That's
yes, wonderful. And not necessarily full time. Right now I do a lot of travel. I do a lot of online meetings, and at some point bringing on other people and training them to do what I'm doing, and then of course move into more of the management role.
Gotcha. But I feel from all you've learned from helping others start and seeing others start, I feel like you'd be a great person to start your own business. Would you ever consider?
Yes. So I am I am a solopreneur now, and what I'm thinking as far as growth, I haven't ever led a large company, and I don't expect to become a large company. So I think always be a boutique coaching, consulting, and training company. However, at some point, maybe franchising or bringing in affiliates would be the next step.
Kind of outsourcing some of the work.
Yeah, I do outsource some of the work, some of the marketing, as well as administrative tasks, but to bring in other people and actually train them to be coaches.
How do you determine if someone's is or can be a trusted employee or associate?
Oh, that's a long process. That's a long. Really, as with me myself, and as well as anybody that's hiring, there's sort of an old adage. It's like you date before you marry.
Yep.
So take a long time. And there's also another one that's a little bit more tongue in cheek, and it's what is it? Hire slow, fire fast. And of course, I believe in working with people and making sure they're in the right role. Sometimes people are just in a role that doesn't suit them. They can stay in the company with different functions.
Yeah.
Or if they're not right for the role or right for the company, then it's easier for everyone if you go ahead and do the breakup, ethically and legally compliant, as soon as you start to realize that it's really just not going to work out.
I've heard one of the toughest parts in being in a leadership role is having to fire people. Have you, and can you attest to that?
Yes, it's very strategic to do that. And I can't remember which book it was I read, but I think it's called like the 36-hour rule versus like 6 months. And it was a leader who had taken a lot longer. They knew someone needed to be offboarded from the team. It just wasn't working out, and it was just a very long and tedious process. But once the person met with the coach, decided that this was the right way to go. I think he slept on it he had like 36 sleepless hours. Finally did let the person go. The person went on and got another role at another company and did great. It was and so it was that long, tenuous breakup period that really it wasn't necessary, and it wasn't serving the leader, the employee that was leaving, or the employees that were still there.
Gotcha. What would you recommend students, for entrepreneurs, what would you recommend? Is there like an industry you feel is strong or could be strong to start a business in?
Ooh,
I'm trying to get some forecasting.
I know. That's a really tough question. There's things that aren't going away. Construction is never going away. I would say that would be always a safe bet.
Yeah.
And if you look at it dollar per dollar, good skill sets to have in construction industry. I guess I grew up in that one, so I'm a little bit biased toward it.
There'll always be a need to build and
and repair and infrastructure, and and lawyering isn't going away either.
No.
So there's some changes of the services that lawyers will be providing in the future, but the strategic thinking and having the trusted advisorship, that's not going away either.
Gotcha. On networking, what platform is the most successful or beneficial to you for networking? Like the various social medias?
Yes, absolutely. For business networking, LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I would encourage people who are new graduates or going to be graduating to go ahead and get on LinkedIn and start making some strategic connections. Make sure that they're putting their best foot forward, best face forward. And then also getting involved in an actual physical networking group in the industry. So I would look for actually two types of groups to get involved with, the types of people that you serve, as well as the types of people that you could collaborate with. So for instance, if you were an attorney, you would like to be, I was a construction attorney. So as a construction attorney, I wanted to be involved in construction organizations, trade organizations for where my clients were. But then I also wanted to be supported by other lawyers. So being an active member of the ABA Forum for Construction Law was something. So I was up on all the trends in my specialty, as well as finding support from other attorneys if I needed to collaborate with some of them, bring on additional counsel, a multi-jurisdictional case, something like that. I knew immediately who to speed dial. But then, of course, for business development and growth, you want to be where your clients are.
So in the kind of profession or industry you pick, you want to be able to be on both sides. I guess maybe the suppliers and the consumers, kind of just so you can have a whole view, a whole holistic approach.
View and resources.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
You're very welcome. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
It was very last minute, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Thank you, Ms. Naef. I would like to personally thank everyone who tuned into this episode of the SHC Division of Business podcast. Our aim is to give young professionals insight into their desired field or potential job of choice. If you gain anything from this, or have any compassion whatsoever, please share with someone you see fit.